We are here at David Sheldrick Elephant Orphanage in Nairobi, capital of Kenya. Situated next to the Nairobi National Park, it is a place of refuge for orphaned elephants and rhinos. A visit to the sanctuary is a must do for wildlife enthusiasts who come to Kenya. David Sheldrick was the chief warden at Tsavo National Park, Kenya in the 1960s. When he died in 1977, his wife, Daphne Sheldrick, who was a keen conservationist herself, set up the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust in her husband's memory and started the Elephant Orphanage at Nairobi with an outpost at Tsavo. Hundreds of baby elephants have been orphaned due to unabated killing of wild elephants for poaching of ivory across Africa in the past. Dame Daphne Sheldrick, during her conservation efforts, hit upon a baby milk formula with coconut oil, which was liked by the baby elephants and helped them survive. After her death in 2018, the orphanage is being managed by her daughter, Angela Sheldrick. So far, over 320 orphans have been successfully raised. At present, the orphanage tends to 22 baby elephants and 2 rhinos.
We are taking care of orphan baby elephants and orphan baby rhinos, and later on reintroducing them back into the wild. And that is why all the babies you're going to see here today are orphans. All have been rescued from different parts of the country. All are having different reasons for being orphans. Some of them, we know exactly what has caused them to be left orphans, and that's why we rescue them. And others, we're really not very sure. But since the others were found when they were still at a very young age, at an age where they would not have survived without the mother's milk, and also without protection against the dangers. That is why we had to come in and help rescue them. A young elephant will need the mother's milk for the first 2 years minimum. And this means if they happen to lose the mothers and they're below 2, they will not survive. They can easily starve to death or can be attacked by the lions and the hyenas and be killed. And so that is the reason why we have to come in so that we can help rescue them and raise them here in the nursery for approximately 3 years. Any time between the age of 3 and 4, we will start to reintroduce all the elephants back into the wild. And we necessarily don't take them where we found them, but we'll always reintroduce them to Southeast National Park and Kibwezi Forest. We do have 3 rehabilitation centers. We do have our keepers at these rehabilitation centers. And our keepers will lead the orphans out in the park every day, setting them free in a wild environment so that our orphans can interact, communicate, play, and make friends with lots of other wild elephants of their choices. Some of those other wild elephants that our orphans will be interacting with are our ex-orphans that have already become wild. They will do play a big role in welcoming in the new orphans and reintroducing them to the rest of the park. This will happen every day, where our orphans will be set free in the park every morning and brought back at our units every evening. And after a long period of doing that, the relationship between our orphans and the wild families becomes a strong bond, which means our orphans will have been invited and adopted in these groups of wild elephants. Once they get adopted, our orphans decide not to come back home in the evening at our units within the rehabilitation centers. Our orphans want to stay with the new wild friends. This means the wild friends have accepted them in as part of the family members. And so the wild friends will train them, will protect them, will warn them against human beings, will show them everything within the park. And our orphans will have become as wild as any other elephant out there. That process of reintroducing them back into the wild takes quite a long time before it fully happens. It takes a minimum of about 5 years. And it takes this long period because it depends on the different characters of different elephants. It depends on the reasons that have caused them to be left orphans. It also depends on their age when they became orphans. It also depends on a factor that elephants will always stay in groups and families. And that is why strangers are not just invited anyhowly in a herd of wild elephants. And that is why our keepers have to stay with them until the time they will be adopted. And once they all get adopted, then we can successfully say we've achieved our target. Our main target here is to rescue them since they were found orphans, handread them, and later on reintroducing them back into the wild. Our orphans will decide by themselves on when they're ready to go back into the wild, which wild herd to join, and whom to accompany with. Our keepers will just observe and see the reaction and let it happen naturally. The process of reintroducing the rhinos is also done gradually. We have two types of rhinos, a black and a white rhino. The difference between the two has got nothing to do with the skin color, but the shape of the mouth. Black rhinos have got a sharp-pointed, an apprehensile upper lip, or an elongated upper lip. And this elongated upper lip will help them to browse on branches of trees, and so they're always browsers, feeding on top of the trees all the time. And the white rhinos have got a wide and flat, square mouth, like the cow at home, mainly feeding on the grass on the ground, and so they're grasses. That's the biggest difference between a black and a white rhino, and not the skin color. Other minor differences are black rhinos are slightly smaller in size compared to white. Black rhinos are more aggressive compared to white. Black rhinos are very solitary and territorial compared to white. We have before reintroduced back into the wild a number of black rhinos. And when a baby rhino comes in, he or she is coming because he's an orphan, and so does not have a mother to provide milk and protection. And that is why we assign them two keepers that will lead the orphan, the baby rhino, out in the park all day. The keepers will provide protection and feed the rhino every 4 hours on milk, day and night, while the rhino will be learning instinctively to be wild within the park. Most behaviors in these animals are instinct. They just need direction and they know what to do. And that is why we lead them in a wild environment. For example, in this case, within Nairobi National Park, all the bushes behind me is part of the park. So our new rhinos will always be set free in the park in the company of the keepers so that they can instinctively learn to be wild, smelling on different types of vegetation and feeding on them as well. Identifying themselves with the other rhinos within the park by trying to make their dung at the maidens, where the other rhinos will be coming and smelling around and will be able to know who is within the neighborhood, and also trying to create the territory within the park. And every evening brought back our units where the baby will spend the night in the stockade. And this is because the park has got lots of other wild animals, including the big cats, which might not be safe for the baby. So that is why the baby has to be brought back in the stockade for the night, and every morning goes out. This happens every day until the time the rhino feels strong enough and does not want to come back home in the evening. The rhino feels like he or she is ready to defend herself out in the wild, and they decide to spend the night in the park. They won't do that instantly. They will do it slowly by starting to spend a half of the night in the park, appearing in the stockade, so by themselves, in the middle of the night. And this will last for some time, just like sometimes the teenagers would do at home. This will last for some time, coming in the middle of the night at home, and after that improving it to a full night without coming back home, then several nights without coming back home. And by the time
This is a baby black rhino. Her name is Raha. Raha was 1 month old when she was saved from Laikipia after attack by hyenas who chopped off her tail and ruptured her rectum. Recovery was difficult for Raha in spite of multiple surgeries and close monitoring by a medical team. She could not have her regular feed, which explains why she is still small in comparison to her age. She is about 1.5 years old now and is slowly being released to the national park to become familiar with other rhinos. And now, here come the first batch of baby elephants.
Elephants down now. 21 will be coming down. They will come down in two groups. This is the first group of 9. And one elephant takes about 24 liters of milk in a day. We add some minerals, some vitamins, and some forage in the milk as well. Any other question? Yes. No, you are not allowed to feed them bananas because we don't feed these animals or any kind of human food apart from the milk. Since we set them free back into the world, we don't want them to get used to human food. And that's why we are not allowed to feed them on any food apart from the milk that we, the keepers, feed them. Yes?
At what age will you send them back to the forest?
Anytime between the age of 3 and 4. Yes? How do we recognize them? They're all different. They might look the same to you because you're seeing them for the first time. But we can tell them from character, from body shape, from texture of their skin. Very few have got little marks on them. But most important is from seeing the same thing every day. It makes it easier to tell them from a glance. Yes, you had another question? Yes.
I'm sure it's a lot of dexterity.
What is the age group of these?
3.5 years is the oldest, and the youngest is 15 months here. Yes.
What's the average weight?
Average lifespan,
Weight at this age?
age, average weight. An elephant at birth weighs about 80 to 100 kilos. A fully grown elephant will weigh up to 6 tons for the females and 7 tons for the males. And the heaviest in the group is about 800 kilos. The youngest, the one that was 1 year old, weighs about 210 kilos.
Keep them for 3 years, 3.5 years.
Well, in the normal questions, I will go ahead to mention the group that has joined us now. And I will start with the elephant on my left, rescue Choka. Behind Choka is Sholumai. 3.5 years. The elephant with the longest tusks in Sholmai was rescued from Laikipia, found collapsed on the ground on a private farm near Doldo Ranges in a very poor thin condition, very skinny and very much dehydrated, starving to death because of the drought, and that is why we rescued Sholmai. Behind Sholmai is Mawingu, approximately 3.5 years, rescued from Laikipia after she had been separated from her family by human beings, and so she's a victim of human-wildlife conflict. Immediate on my right is Silaita, 3.5 years. And Silaita also happens to be the main matriarch, the team leader, the mother figure of all the elephants in the nursery. And this is because by natural instinct out in the wild, the oldest female automatically becomes in charge. They communicate, they go their own languages, they know who is older, and they'll always respect the oldest female. And this is Mageno, who is approximately 2.5 years. And Mageno was rescued from Savo Conservation Area, a starvation victim due to drought. Far end corner on the right is Kitich, 3 years old. And Kitich was rescued from Kitich Ham, which is found in Samburu, another starvation victim due to drought. And lastly on my left is Mukutan, who is 3.5 years, who doubles to be the most dominant bull, who was rescued from Laikipia, who was found in a community farm in a maize plantation with all the rest of the family members, and that is why we rescued Mukutan. And makes a total of 21 elephants that have come before you, all under our care for the first 3 years. And any time between the age of 3 and 4, we take them to Savo East National Park and Kibwezi Forest, where we reintroduce them to different groups of wild.
So, did we enjoy our trip to the Sheldrick Orphanage? Yes, we did. Seeing these orphaned animals evokes a deep sense of sadness and empathy. But as we leave the orphanage, we are also filled with joy, seeing their playful activities, and with hope for a better, secure future for these animals in their natural habitat.